Hi everybody and welcome to another Kalicube Tuesdays. I'm Jason Barnard, the brand sup guy from Kalicube, and today a quick hello and we're good to go. Welcome to the show, Aleasha Bahr.
Hello, excited to be here, Jason.
Brilliant, wonderful, welcome. And we're going to be talking about cringe-free sales that convert. And I think the word cringe is super important here because when I talked to you a year and a bit ago, I was trying to learn to sell better. And my first reaction to everything that I was hearing was, oh, that makes me cringe. And that was from somebody like yourself who actually specializes in the cringe-free version of sales. And I still felt a little bit uncomfortable. Is the key that my sales technique or my sales pitch or my sales approach needs to correspond to my own personality?
Absolutely.
That
Yes.
was easy. Right, we can stop the episode there. Thank you very much. It was delightful.
Well,
Right, we're going to start off.
I
Oh,
can
sorry.
elaborate if you want me to.
But you will right after I've introduced your brand, sir. That's what we're going to
Okay.
be talking about, is making sure that the sales approach we have corresponds to us, our business, and our audience, I would imagine, the prospect, and moving people out of the sales funnel if they're not a good fit. That's what I've understood. That's my brief summary before we've even started. But before that, I wanted to show black sheep sales method. Look at this. Google has understood what it is, and it's pulled out that it's about empathy, curiosity, and excitement. And the only goal is to identify whether the buyer is a fit, which is perfect. So just a quick question while we're looking at this. Why do you call it black sheep and not matchmaker?
Yeah. Well, I did call it matchmaker.
I
But
know,
it just
that's why I
didn't.
asked.
Yeah. So it didn't quite hit right. It didn't. I've had to dial in who my ideal client and my target audience is over years, and I've always been a black sheep, and I was talking about it with my clients, and they 3 in a row in the same week said that they too were the black sheep in their family. And I was like, maybe there's something here. And I mean, I'm definitely a black sheep when it comes to sales. Just being a woman is black sheep in itself in sales. And just the whole approach is it's been really difficult for me to make it clear that I'm actually different because every sales expert is saying they're different and then they're not.
Yeah.
So, I really want to work with the people who have admitted and accepted that they are different and are ready to stop trying to fit themselves into that box, that
Mm.
mainstream box that everyone says you have to do, you should do. And you've probably tried it and it didn't work for you. And results are the only thing that matter. Results and are you having a good time? So if neither of those things are happening with mainstream methods, then I'm ready to work with people who are like tired of
Yeah.
trying to do what everybody says that they need to do.
Well, it was one of the things that made me uncomfortable when I talked to other people about how I should be selling, is that they were trying to fit me to a mold that didn't correspond to who I am, and that made me immediately uncomfortable. And you just said having a good time, and I'm on earth to have a good time, to do things I enjoy, and selling a year ago for me was difficult and I didn't enjoy it, and now I'm actually quite enjoying it and I'm having quite a good time. But then I've got Leanne on the Kalicube team who's actually doing the hard work. All I do is jump on calls and talk to people. And now we're going to be working with you. So full disclosure, we're going to be working with Aleasha, who's going to improve our sales pitch, our sales method, our sales calls, educating before they get on the sales call. And you should never be educating while you're selling and something like that. And this is all the stuff we're going to be talking about. But back to the brand SERP. Here's your brand SERP. You've got a lovely knowledge panel.
Oh,
That is
that's
beautiful.
exciting. Oh.
Your head's cut off, but that's a minor point that can easily be corrected. But that's a lovely knowledge panel. I love knowledge panels. This is my favorite thing in the entire universe. And on the right-hand side there, you will see that with the Kalicube newsletter, you will learn to educate Google, get a knowledge panel like that for yourself. Anybody can have a knowledge panel like that. It's just a question of, does Google understand you? And is it confident in that understanding? And if it is confident in its understanding of who you are, what you do, which audience you serve, it will give you a knowledge panel. Sign up to our newsletter, kalicube.com/newsletter. And it's delightful. We will teach you to educate Google. Now, back to the black sheep sales method. How does it start? What do we do? Am I a black sheep? Off you go, Aleasha.
Well, I would say you're definitely a black sheep. You approach
Thank you.
search very, it is a positive. It's a positive thing. The
Yep.
only way this world has progressed forward is because somebody stepped up with a different idea and everybody said, "Oh, that's scary or weird," or "Stop and sit down and let's just keep doing things the way they are." And that black sheep had to say, "No." They had to be brave enough to say, I'm going to get louder instead. And now we have all kinds of things that we didn't have before because black sheep did this. So just thinking that we could even fly in the sky was like an
Oh,
absolutely
right.
radical, terrifying idea. Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking about the round world. The black sheep was it Columbus who said no, and I'll sail off the end of the world to prove it.
Yes, yes, it was. I mean, even like if you want to look at religion, all the prophets have been black sheep. Like whenever they came out,
Mm.
everyone was like, "Shut up," you know, like we don't want to hear your message. And now we have, millions and millions of people whose lives are impacted by those people. So
Right.
yes, it's a
So
good thing.
so now, right, I'm a black sheep in the search and digital marketing world
You
because I've
sure
come up with a
are.
completely new approach saying, let's learn from Google what it doesn't understand, explain to Google what it doesn't understand, and by doing so, we will build the best digital ecosystem, the best digital marketing strategy out there. So let's leverage Google's misunderstandings to make sure that we're doing a great job. Does that mean I'm a black sheep in sales, though?
Probably. You're a black sheep in sales because you don't want to sell like a high pressure douchebag. So, anybody who is not aggressive by nature is not going to be comfortable or as successful with mainstream sales method. They are designed for a more aggressive style of person. It's like this kind of condescending frame
Mhm.
for the conversation. And it was also, designed when most decision makers were only one type of person, other aggressive men. So there are
Right.
a diversity of people in decision making positions now who are not going to respond as well to that. And I mean, you hear that. Nobody likes this high pressure. I mean, some people do, but they're becoming more and more the minority of people who respond well to that type of thing. So it's really time for a new way to approach sales. If you do like selling aggressively, then the black sheep sales method is not for you. If you aren't a really aggressive person, then I'm going to go ahead and say you're going to get a lot better results with the black sheep sales method.
Right. And the idea of kind of pressuring people to buy is pushing people to buy something they don't necessarily need. And encyclopedia salesman on the doorstep from the 50s is my typical example of the little old lady who's bought a set of encyclopedias that she will never use, or she's bought the first volume or something like that. Terrible, terrible situation to be in. And today we're in a world where bringing value and real value to the client is key, and pressuring them isn't going to work.
Right. I mean, yes, usually the pressure, it often looks like shaming them and making them feel
Mm,
stupid for not making a decision to buy. So that's a big part of it too. And some people are, bullied into doing that. But that's also going to bring in somebody like starting off a client relationship. If you have a long term client relationship with somebody, you don't really want to start the relationship like that. And this happens a lot. Like really good, kind people who care a lot about their client results will implement this aggressive strategy that doesn't fit them, occasionally get somebody who signs up and they have attitude the whole time because they're like, you made me feel like you were the God's gift to the answer to my problems. You said I was going to be so stupid if I didn't move forward with this. So, dance monkey, dance. And it's like not
mm.
what people who have long-term relationships with clients want.
Right. Well, I've had two different kind of sales calls types, let's say. One of which is the potential client, the prospect jumps on the call and says, convince me.
Yeah, I hate
And then
that.
I have to talk for half an hour.
Mm-mm,
Or a
no.
client who jumps on and says, so what are we talking about? And then we open a discussion. And that's kind of something you've been helping me understand is my role is actually to listen, which I'm not doing now, but you get the idea.
Yes. So getting curious, curiosity is really key. And because you're not going to know if what you do is a fit for somebody if you don't ask questions. So you don't want to assume that you're a fit for everybody because you're not. And people are going to trust you more when you make it clear that you're not a fit for everyone. And even explain the situations where somebody is not a fit for what you do. Because they're expecting someone selling them something to say, oh, yeah, we get amazing results for everybody. And we have like pots of gold and tiny leprechauns and all the things. And that's what they expect. So you're a pattern interrupt whenever you're like, well, let me understand your situation first and, explain the scenarios when you don't explain what the situation is when somebody does not get results with me to make sure that that's not you.
Right. Yeah, we've had one chargeback so far in Calicube's entire 9-year history. And that chargeback was from somebody who said, convince me. I convinced them. And I convinced them of my long-term view. Turns out they were expecting short-term results, and that's why they weren't happy. And then they asked for a chargeback. They were saying, we're not getting the results after 2 months. To which I replied, well, I explained that it was long-term, but it looks like that my explanation of long-term got lost in my enthusiasm, I think.
Probably. So, I mean, you definitely want to, one of the questions that's really good to ask, like I always suggest to overcome objections early on. So prompt objections. If an objection that you get a lot is about not immediate results, then you're going to want to ask, what's your timeline for results? And you're going to let them know that it typically takes about 6 months. Is that okay with you? And if you're wanting instant results, then you want to look at these other options. So obviously explain that the benefit of SEO or what you're doing is going to be that you don't have to put throwing money in a never-ending hole that never stops like you are with any of the immediate lead generation options. So it's really nice to do them at the same time, honestly, while you're growing the longer term strategy. So explaining those things and having that conversation with the person about, is your situation going to be able to financially support that? And if not, then I don't want you to be in financial strain.
Right. And that, what you just said brings me to another question, is misunderstandings. So you said SEO. We don't do SEO.
I know.
Everybody thinks we do. No, but everybody thinks we do, and it's a huge problem. So I get people jumping on the call, and they're not educated as to what we're actually offering. And I end up explaining, well, it's not SEO. SEO is the natural end game of what we're doing, but that's way down the line. We're building a proper digital marketing strategy that will drive your business. Google sees that and will reward you further down the line because it sees that you're the best solution for the subset of its users who are your audience. But I can't explain that on a sales meeting every time. You were talking about pre-education. How does that work?
Yeah. So especially when you're different or you're working with a service that is a bit more complex than what somebody is used to, it's really good to send ahead of your scheduled call a video or a series of emails. So for example, I'm a very different type of sales coach. So I don't think that sales is a numbers game. I don't think that being charming is required. You can be awkward and be very good at sales. And so I send something that explains all of this ahead of time. So I don't have to sit there in the sales conversation and explain all the ways that I'm different. They already know, and we can talk specifically about their situation. So for you, it would be, this is what we'll create together, some education on the more powerful approach to SEO is not creating content for SEO reasons. Let me show you some examples. We'll probably do an example of, this is somebody who just did SEO. This is somebody who did personal branded efforts and SEO came as a result. Do you see the difference? This is what we're going for, and it's better for XYZ reasons. And here are the common misconceptions and whatever. So then when they come to the call, you don't have to explain all that.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And what you've just done is framed what I need to say incredibly simply and beautifully. And it took you 30 seconds. And I've been struggling with this for 9 years. So there you go. There's immediately the value of black sheep approach. And that idea that I can present SEO, because people come in, whatever I want, people still think SEO, even if I've explained it 100 times.
Yeah.
So I need to frame it from SEO and not try to frame it my way. Is that the case? I need to come, I can't just walk in and say, well, this is how I say it. I'm the black sheep and you need to believe me. I need to frame it from their perspective.
Yeah. I would say these are the common misconceptions about traditional SEO. I think that would be very powerful for you. And here's where it falls flat when you approach it this conventional way. When you approach it from this other way, SEO happens and all of this other stuff happens. So like, look at these examples. And I mean, we'll dive into it whenever we have our first meeting to really understand what those things are. But yes, as an example, meet them where they are. If you have people who think that you're SEO, then explain how they're going to get this. It's like, it's not that people want SEO, they want the result of SEO. So as long as you still provide that result, it doesn't matter. And that's all you really need to educate on. You know?
So, I mean, in sales, I'm focusing on what they get out of it, the value. And it's something that I've heard for years and years and years. And I thought, yeah, I'm just going to explain how all this works. And I've had a great time doing it, but it doesn't sell, which is why I'm not a multimillionaire right now.
Yeah. People just want to know, okay, but what does that do for me?
Yes, exactly. And it's one of the difficult things, I think, as a human being, because I'm so obsessed by my own interests and my own little world that I fail to realize that I need to put myself in their shoes and understand that I need to provide to them I need to provide the value, or I need to explain the value they will get and get them to trust me. How much of the sales call is about trust?
Everything. Nobody buys anything without trusting somebody. So the foundation of the black sheep sales method is, if it's a fit, it's a fact, and there's no selling involved. That means if it's not a fit, it's all good. Like, you really want to leave space for it to not be a fit and explore that with the other person from the frame of, I'm an expert guiding you to make the best decision for yourself. And you can think of it the same way that you guide a friend making a really important professional decision or a big decision with their significant other. You're going to get really curious to understand what is best for that person, right? You're going to ask some deep questions, and you're probably not going to let them just get off so easy, because it's a big decision. So you're okay with either answer being the answer. You're guiding them through the process of you both understanding what the best answer is.
Which makes total sense. And the idea of me talking to somebody as though they were my friend, or I was really trying to get the best for them. To what extent can I do that? And every time I find somebody where it isn't a fit, I obviously push them towards something that will really make sense to them, that isn't Kalicube. Can I integrate that into the education material so they don't even come on the call? The next ones won't come on the call.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the pre-education series, I usually recommend to have like who you are and who you are not. So if you're this person, cancel the call. If you need leads in the next 30 days, cancel the call now. If that's like your only goal and the only thing that you have budget for, that's not us. You can do that with our strategy, and they're very complementary. However, if that's not possible for you right now, then I would not continue with this call.
So is that a video or a text or a PDF?
I personally like a video because they get a sense of you too, but it can be either. Yeah, it wouldn't be a text. It would be an email or a video.
Oh, okay. And what kind of length? Because I would immediately think, people don't necessarily watch these videos. I get videos that I'm supposed to watch before, for example, being on a podcast. And a lot of the time I kind of think, well, that's a lot of effort. So do people watch these videos?
That's a little different. So I don't really advise
of
making
course it
them
is.
longer.
It's the only, sorry, if I may say, it's the only equivalent I could find, because nobody's ever sent me a video before a sales call.
Yeah. So sometimes people will not have watched it. I've worked with people when they're doing paid ads and there's a large volume. And at that point, you got to be like, okay, I need your confirmation that you watched the video, because you get on so many calls that people didn't. And it's a huge waste of time because you're spending the whole time educating. So in those scenarios, you have to get pretty strict about it. But a lot of the times, as long as you make it so that it's for their benefit, this is for your benefit to watch this video. It's going to explain how we're different and how that benefits you, so that we can dive into your situation specifically when we talk. people are typically going to want to watch that. And especially if it's like 5 to 7 minutes, which is the length that I recommend.
Right. And do you frame it in the booking form, or do you frame it in an email after they booked?
You can do both. Yeah. I like to let people know as much as possible. Hey, this is what's coming for you, because a lot of times people are confused about what we do. So I have a video that breaks it all down, and then we'll talk about your situation specifically.
Right. Okay. So I mean, in fact, I can put the link in the Calendly form, for example, and then send an email to them saying, please remember to watch this. And if it's not suitable, send them the Calendly link to cancel the meeting, and encourage them to cancel, rather than desperately hoping that everybody's going to come on the call, because we're all wasting each other's time.
Yeah, really, it's kind of beautiful when you say who you're not for. The person that you are for can choose in even more enthusiastically, because they know who that other person is and it's not them. So, like, for example, I worked with this woman who was a bohemian bookkeeper, and we put together like who she was for and who she wasn't. And she was like, if you're looking for people in suits, that's not us. If you're looking for people who will just do what you tell them to do and not take any proactive initiative on their own, that's not us. If you're looking for people who you just want to check a box during tax time, that's not us. And so we all know who that person is that she's explaining, right?
Yeah.
You know that person. And so the right person will say, I know that person, and that is not me. And so they feel even more confident.
So the first thing we're going to be doing is figuring out who we are and explaining who we're not.
Yes. And who you're for and who you are not for.
Right. Oh, so I do explain what I'm for. So here is who we're not for, and then here is who we're for. And hopefully at the end of it, they go, well, they've jumped off halfway through if they've said, well, that's not for me because I'm in that group of people. By the end of it, the people who think this is for me, they're on the call. They come on the call, we get them on the call, and we move them through the, whatever it is, the sales. Do you have a sales script? Is it worth having a sales script?
It's a framework. So I don't like a word for word script, because no conversation is ever going to be the same, but there is some information that you want to make sure and get from the other person, and some information that you want to make sure and explain to the other person. And so that's what's included in the framework. And my superpower is really simplifying what you do and how you explain it so that other people understand it, and it doesn't take very much time for you to say it. So that wording does help a lot in the sales conversation, but it's not a script.
Right. Okay. So it's framework. And then walk them through, and then there's a follow-up. I mean, at the end of the sales call, my experience has been that when I try to sell directly in the sales call, those are the people who are not necessarily the best fit. I like, personally, record the sales call, send it to Leanne because she's super smart. They have time to digest. I have time to digest, write a summary, and then send a proposal as a PDF where she can frame it according to what they've told me about what their needs are, their expectations, who the decision maker is. And that's been working really well.
Yeah. So that's highly unusual sales process. But one of the things about me is that, like, I'm not I'm not one size fits all. And if something's not broken, I don't fix it. So we're going to look at your sales strategy and keeping it the same and adding elements that are going to make it smoother. So I know part of it is that, like, there's just this huge variation of what you guys can offer. And so that customization can be a little bit of a slippery slope. So, I mean, usually, So usually I would say, like, in your case where you're selling a service like this, any kind of marketing services, I would really advise a proposal. I would not try to sell it there in the meeting. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, 100%. And what I'm now thinking about doing is, what we're going to do is identify exactly what our offer is, what the sales pitch is, define the contracts, and then filter that up to the marketing department so that they're speaking about exactly what people are going to be getting at the sales point, at which point we're then selling what we're actually explaining to people further up the funnel, then passing that down to the production team so they deliver what we've actually sold, and hopefully then have a really neat flow. Right now, there's a disconnect between marketing, sales, and production. And the idea is to make the sales call, the fulcrum of everything that flows up and flows down.
Yeah, and honestly, understanding what is easier on a fulfillment end can definitely inform what happens on the sales end. So I see this a lot with big teams, like with salespeople who don't have to do the fulfilling. They like to get
Yes.
crazy. They come up with whatever they can to close the deal. Oh, sure, we'll throw in that extra thing, and then the fulfillment team is like, "What the hell?" And the client has a
Mm.
horrible experience and like leaves. So you really want to limit that as much as possible, because if there is that much freedom for a salesperson to just kind of do whatever they want, then you're going to have stuff that's just all over the board.
That's a really good point. I mean, keeping the sales team in check, as it were, because it is very tempting, and I've done it before, to say, "Oh, we can do that," because I know we can theoretically, but is it
Yeah.
practical and is it profitable? In the particular case I'm thinking of, absolutely not. And I put Aleasha in a particularly difficult situation.
Well, and also it's just like understanding why the person is asking for that thing, because a lot of
Mm.
times they don't necessarily need that thing. It could be satisfied with something else that makes sense for your fulfillment team. So being like, what makes you ask for that? Like what is the concern, or what is the desire? And a lot of times it can be solved just by understanding that.
Right. I mean, which actually kind of brings me to the point. If I've just said we're going to go from the sales call up to the marketing and then down to the fulfillment, but actually the sales call needs to be also based on what the marketing are saying, what the marketing understand the market needs, and what the fulfillment team can actually do. So my simplistic view has now become more complicated. Now I'm confused, but it's all starting to make sense and we're on the right track. And I thank you very much for that. Explanation, because it's going to be really helpful for everybody else. I'm still only halfway there, and we're going to be working with you to get us all the way there. Before ending, can you answer this last question? How can branded search help with sales calls that convert, Aleasha?
Yeah. So branded search means that you're going to get clients who understand what you do, and you're going to have credibility and authority and legitimacy established before the sales conversation, which means that trust is established, and sales literally don't happen without trust. So whenever somebody Googles you and what they see is a little different from how you present yourself, it feels off. That doesn't feel like I can trust that, because I trust Google more than your words, because you can just make up your words. So branded search is going to help build the trust you need for sales to happen, and also educate your customer before they talk to you, so that you don't have to do as much heavy lifting.
It's absolutely brilliant. That's the perfect snippet that we can use that explains exactly how branded search helps. And what's interesting as well is on the sales calls that I get so many people who come in and say, "I've Googled around the topic, that red shirt keeps turning up. You're obviously the company for this, and you're the person who understands it best. And I've Googled your name and your brand name, and you look like the real deal." And it's been hugely powerful for us. Thank you so much, Aleasha. That was delightful. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We're now going to introduce next week and pass the baton, Matthew Stafford, revolutionizing e-commerce, secrets to revenue optimization. I want to optimize my revenue, and I'm sure that Matthew is going to share the secrets to help me do that. Could you pass the baton, Aleasha?
I can. Here is the baton, Matthew Stafford. And you have a very smart looking sports jacket. And e-commerce is a big giant that has, ruined malls. But I don't think anybody is mad about it, because I can get stuff delivered overnight. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, and you rightly pointed out baton and not baton.
Well, in America, I don't know if it's which
You're
one's
in
right or
America.
wrong.
No, neither are right or wrong. You're in America. I say potato, you say patata, or something like that. Thank you so much, Aleasha. You get the outro song. A quick goodbye to end the show. Thank you, Aleasha.
Thank you, Jason.
Kalicube. It's all about your brand SERP.